I will go first through narrative medicine, and then I will go through NSM by our side, and an encounter with Minimal English, and the encounter with Professor Bert Peters. I have a classic background, and then I went to study science, and then epidemiology and counseling. And I'm working in healthcare fields. I've been working in healthcare fields since 28 years, so it's quite a long time. So my main mission is our main mission as Fondazione ISTUD, we are a group, but my main mission as well is to improve the healthcare services in Italy and all over the world, especially we operate in Europe. So if we see how healthcare works, should be a continuity of care. It's a very complex ecosystem because in healthcare you have many, many different actors. You have the hospitals, you have the rural community, the local community, you have then physicians, nurses, you have psychotherapists, psychologists, you have so many kind of professions and the patients as well, and the family members as well, and they have to be interconnected. So the endpoint is to provide continuity. Here we have the fact that we have an increase in technology for improvement, and it works. So it's like a software. However, it's like a hardware. However, there is the software, which are the relational skills. And what's happening nowadays is that technocracy, I wouldn't call it anymore technology, but the technocracy is really overwhelming and is really putting in danger the relational skills. And we will see later from the distinction between three words, disease, illness, and sickness, that disease has too much to do with technology, whereas illness and sickness have to do with something different that we will try to explain later. And I will try to tell to you that generally medicine works with deals with number, digits, plots, evidence, disease, which are coming from the disease, but the best for getting the better outcomes comes from a symbiosis between evidence-based medicine and narrative-based medicine. These are the definition of illness, disease, and sickness, which are provided by Arthur Kleinman, Harvard University. Let's go through them. They are widely accepted in the whole world of narrative medicine, or people who are expert in this field. So disease has to do with something broken in the machine, like the body is not properly functioning. It's something that has to do with the mechanics. The body is like an object, and we have to repair this object. And the aim is to return towards the biological norm. So here there are no feelings, no thoughts, no wishes of the patient. Just it's something broken. It's like a broken car. We have to repair it. We need a good engineer. We need a good carpenter. We need something like this. Yes. Then we have sickness. Sickness is the anthropological perception of that disease by the society. And there are, again, also here, somehow, the aim is towards social normalcy, so the social inclusion. What is it? There are diseases which are producing stigma in the society, like HIV infection, like skin diseases. However, there are diseases which are producing a positive effect in terms of compassion in the society, like leukemia in children. Everyone feels compassion for a child who has leukemia. So sickness is really a moral judgment which is given by the society to a particular kind of disease. And then this is the third one, which Cliff just mentioned, is illness, which has something to do with the living experience with the disease, has something to do with the conscious or unconscious perception of that person, of what the person is thinking, the feeling, the thoughts, what he can do or she can do. So, and here we see that from a healthcare point of view, we don't have only to repair a machine, but we have to take care of the person as a whole. And so keeping in mind this distinction is very important, because we know that evidence-based medicine, it's all based on disease, okay, on the concept of the disease that we have seen. Like we have a low number of platelets. What we have to do is just to increase the number of platelets without taking care of the person. However, Tricia Greenall, who she is one of the experts in narrative medicine, and she published last year the guidelines for the World Health Organization on narrative research. She did, I think, a wonderful study with the UK doctors, published in the British Medical Journal in 2014, with a survey in which she asked, do you think that evidence-based medicine, so all this medicine made by numbers, digits, so this is functioning well or not? Just let me add one thing, that on these numbers, figures, and plots, the guidelines, protocols, care maps are based. So if you go to a certain hospital, they will apply a certain protocol, which is standard. So this is coming and crossing the whole Western medicine. Okay, so like if you have a cancer, it's very much likely that you will receive the same kind of therapy here in Canberra, in Milan, in New York. So there won't be many differences. Well, anyhow, the UK doctor said 51% said no, it's not working, 49% said yes, it's working. As you can see here from this number, there is absolutely no consensus which was reached. So we can see that there is a problem. And Tricia tries to explain this problem, saying we can't standardize the individual patient. Patients are very much different, and their experiences of living with the disease are typically idiosyncratic, subjective, and impossible to standardize. That's it. This is why we need narrative. So now, providing the definition of narrative medicine. This is the definition of Greenall, the lady of before, and Brian Wuritz of the King's College. They have published this article from a very fascinating title, I would say, Narrative-Based Medicine in an Evidence-Based World, published in 1999. This was really a breakthrough. And both say that narrative medicine is everything which occurs between the healthcare providers and the patient, with attention to the flow of the disease, so from the diagnosis up to the treatment, up to the ending, but with attention to the whole person, so with attention to the illness, physical, psychological, social, and existential, ontological features. So what are the beliefs of this person? Which are the priorities of this person? There is another definition which is given by Rita Sharon. She is another lady of narrative medicine, and she says that she's American, from Columbia University. She put the name on narrative medicine, and she says that by being able to understanding, observing, being moved by the narratives of the patients, we can provide better effectiveness of care. And it helps to work on the whole group, doctors, nurses, social workers. This is our definition of narrative medicine. We think that we can include both the views. We are always moving for building bridges. So for us, every single patient narrative can be in a standalone position. However, we can really understand through the recurrences and individual patient differences in patients, we can really understand how to redefine the healthcare pattern. These are our credits in narrative medicine. We are acting in this field since 2004. We have covered acute disease, chronic disease, very severe disease, neuromuscular condition. We have covered a cancer disease, so we have covered many of them. We have quite a bit of experience. Which are the tools that we use in narrative medicine? The tools can be free, so you don't have a guided plot. There can be just a talk, oral interview or free. Can be a diary of a patient. Can be a free short narrative. Well, the best that Rita Sharon did is that she invented this that is called parallel chart, at least in my opinion, the best, because this parallel chart is something that is related to the fact that there is a clinical chart in the hospital where you write down all the disease facts like signs, symptoms, yes? And there you write all the illness on this parallel chart, and the parallel chart follows in parallel way the clinical chart. There you write inside, the doctor write inside, or the nurse write inside the priorities of these patients, the objectives, the belief of the patient, but also, this is wonderful of the parallel chart, right inside also the relationship that this she or he has with the patient. And like, for instance, this patient recalls me of my uncle who had the same illness, and I'm so much moved by, and I know that I'm moved by, so I have to that I'm too much involved. So what should I do for? But she says that if you don't see it written, you will never really become aware of what it is your position towards the patient. We use also fairy tales using symbols when it's so difficult to enter into the inner realm, the inside out. So, as I told you, we use the semi-guided storyline. As Bert wrote in the chapter that we wrote together, the idea is to pinpoint commonalities in the narrative, so to improve the public and private healthcare system. And if we talk about an illness, we can see that there are three main phases into which illness is scanned. The following is the past, in which the period in which something is not functioning, body starts to ache and starts the patient journey and seeking for good doctors. It's a very crucial moment here because it's a moment of diagnosis, and it's a very crucial moment, the remembering of the communication of the disease. Then there is the being ill phase, which is here and now, we could say, is the therapeutic pattern. There are crucial moments. There might be surgery, there might be drugs, tests again. And eventually there are two possible endings, a getting worse and a getting better phase. They are independent from the objective severity of the disease. A person can die, but the ending can be a good one because he has or she has developed ability for coping. Coping means that you are able to master something which is not so much wanted, not so much predictable. And but today I will not. I'm teaching coping at the University of Unimed, but not here because it was not the object of the speaking. And now come how I met you. I just read, it was made 2016, it's mine, Rethinking the Conception Semantics of Possession through NSM. And I read it, I was astonished. I said, wow, there is a meta-language covering all languages. I didn't know it. And I said, well, I went to go through reading the semantic prime of NSM, and I discovered that in my mind there might have been an hypothesis that we were using in our semi-structured plot some of the words which are belonging to the NSM, like before, it's not once, before, now, today, tomorrow, close, people, others, to feel, to think, to want, to say, my body, the body, and also in the coming out from what the patients write, good, bad, they feel good, bad, they want to live, they want to die. So there were so many words which were falling into this system. So I wrote to Anna, and I sent the illness plot, and I just want to mention why we have chosen these words in our group, because we wanted to stay the most holistic as possible and the most neutral as possible. So to allow patients to really not to be manipulated. Our fear, our highest fear was to provide the words which were not universal, okay? We didn't want to provide local words, and we didn't want to manipulate patients in their answer. And so we started a collaboration through Skype with Professor Bert Peters, who was in charge for this, and this is how we've been working 2 hours every other week to fit the plot in almost total minimal English and NSM. We have negotiated, I think, on every word or something like this. So anyhow, and now this is the plot I'm going to show you. And I'm going to tell you how we are testing. So we have, you remember the timeline, falling ill, being ill, and getting better, getting worse. We have started with something which was even before the illness, because it came out then from patient's narrative. The patient recalled that they were strong and brave, and they were, if they cannot walk anymore, they were they were huge runners. If they cannot see anymore, they had a wonderful sight. So it's like remembering a golden age which is gone. So before the illness, what's happening? I don't know what. Okay. Then something happened to me. These are the words that we have used. It happened like this. When I felt something, I felt. Then to know what was happening, I spoke to, after some long short time, they said to me, you see, we left impersonal, like I felt because my body, I thought, I wanted. So this is when something is starting. We don't know if the patient has gone already somewhere, the hospital, but something is starting to wake inside the body. And then, after things were not like before, with the person I had spoken to me, I felt, the doctor, the nurse, the specialist, we are still in the past. We have added this word, yes? They do belong to minimal English, because we think that we can't oversimplify. These are words which are belonging to medical jargon, and I will bring you an example in which we had to add some other words, because they are there. And the illness was, but you see, at home I spoke to, when I was not at home, the people in my life, because of this I felt things were. And now, this is the now, being now, I feel the illness, my body, I can do, I can't do, we have added afterwards. Some people have done things for me, they haven't, now the illness is. At home I can, I cannot. When I'm not at home, I can, I can't. Now with these people in my life. And then for the future, tomorrow, when I think about tomorrow, I want. And last but not least, this is important, we're always asking to the patients, when I wrote my story I felt, because we don't want to be invasive, we want to be, because we know that there are tons of publication on therapeutic benefits of the writing. However, It depends. It depends, and we will see. It's not so true that all narrative is so much therapeutic. It depends on the moment in which you ask the narrative to that patient. So what did we afterwards? We have asked now, we have prepared the plot and we asked to join us across country. Why? This was the aim of the study. Well, of course, we wanted to test the script, translate it into other languages, make the script easier to understand for patients from a variety of cultural backgrounds. Every type of backgrounds. In Italy, for instance, we are full of migrants. They are coming. And I'm sure that probably also here you have many migrants, and in other parts of the world as well. So we have to learn how to communicate. And then, yes, through this, get patients to tell their story using relatively simple language, which is not so true, that we will see. Even if we propose a simple language, patients will answer in a different way. And Paola will say it afterwards. And this was somehow, if patients sometimes fall back on a greater number of semantic prime in their discourse, this is true, because they say, I felt like dying, I felt like I want to live, I was shocked, like sometimes they really fall, especially because they are in a fragile condition, fragile situation, in a very simple language. Just want to show you a case in which it was interesting. Cancer patients, both literate people, writers, novelists, and simple, ordinary patients with cancer, when they had to describe their illness, they used the same words. So they forgot the structure of the literate. So here the people on board, we have now, they are testing the plot. Is Portugal, Susana Magalhães, Professor of Medical Humanities, Marina Mariani, is similar to my name, but it's not. So she's doing a project work in our Master of Narrative Medicine on breast cancer. This is cancer. Silvia Rossi, Director of the Association Cancer Contribution, Paris. David Tomasi, USA, University of Vermont, mental illness. It is interesting because here, University of Vermont, they are very much fascinated by linguistics, and I know we have been speaking together. I know that Chomsky went there to provide lessons. Vera Kalisku, she said no, because I don't believe in the structured plot. No, this is it. I know what, but I will tell you, this is, at least they were very much interested in this. And Vera Kalisku said no. And John Lohner, Tavistock honorary member, endorsed the study. Trisha Grinnell, the lady I mentioned before, liked the concept, but too busy to participate. So we have translated the plot into minimal Portuguese, minimal French, with the validation by experts. Plots were ready by the end of January and given to the participating center. Illness plot now online. This is the French, English, and Italiano, prima della malattia, before the illness. These are the 5 phases. Before the illness, something happened to me. Things were not like before. Now, tomorrow, writing my story. This is in Português, antes da doença, alguma coisa não eram como antes, agora, amanhã, escrevendo a minha história. And so now we are still collecting narratives. We got 10 from France, 2 from Italy, 1 from Portugal, 0 from USA, because the protocol was just approved by the ethics committee of the Vermont University. And so we are really keen to know after, because this David Tomasi, who is Italian, wants really to, he was fascinated by this model. I said, yes, we want to participate and we want to see which are the outcome. These are the short verbatim of the last writing my story. This was a Portuguese person. After so many years of illness, I felt the powerless of ourselves. Writing my story, French, I felt serene, I felt strong, I felt sad. Writing my story, Italian, it has been an act of freedom inside out. So this is, as you can see, is the respect of keeping the different, the open solution to every individual. Yes, you start with the prompt. The prompt is universally understandable, and you get different answers. Now I want to end my presentation going with a similar study that we have did in patients with colon cancer who underwent a surgery for remoction of cancer and for creation of a stoma. It's a very area of sickness, high stigma on this creation of stoma. And we have created a similar illness plot. There are technical, of course, words which cannot be removed. In 62 Australian patients and in 151 Italian patients. This was a plot. The first meeting with the surgeon was during the meeting I felt. The meeting with my stomach nurse was during the meeting I felt. People I wanted by my side. I say in words that my stomach is like. The moment of my surgery for me was, I wanted to know, considering the experience I wanted, how do I live today? How did you feel writing your story? You see, this belongs to the past, up to now. This is a present, and okay, how did you feel writing your story? And there are many words which do belong to the NSM, I suppose. Now, first, coming to the answering with the last question, as I saw in your book, here, Italian, the respondents were saying, how was writing your experience an act of liberation? It was really the peculiarity of venting. It came out also from 151 patients. And from Australian respondents, while sharing, they want to, it's a good opportunity to voice my concerns and hopefully make the transition easier for someone else. So an Italian said, telling my experience gives me a sense of liberation. This is quite a stereotype, perhaps, I don't know, but we fall in that category. We fall in that category. So coming to the results, the healthcare professional. Well, this is why it is useful to use the plot, because from the narrative it came out from both sides that first encounter with the surgeon is a very delicate moment, is a crucial moment, because in this case the patient discovers that he or she is told two bad news, that there is a cancer and that three, and they had to undergo a surgery, and then that there is a creation of a stoma, which is something which is going to change somehow forever their body. So it's something really heavy to handle. And the patient reaction can vary a lot. So here we have the patient that every doctor would wish. Let's see the surgery like the God blessing. There is this possibility. Life is sacred over everything. And so I'm happy because there is something with which I can still go on and keeping alive. There are the other type of patients that are focused in knowing how this will impact my life. How may I return to normality, to my life before? And there are patients who are scared and shocked, and while the doctors keep on talking and talking and talking, the patients are not absorbing anything of what the doctor is saying. So I felt like the surgeon, you see, these are the emotions that we have studied. We're only studying emotion in the narrative, fear, panic, negative emotion, but then at the end, only 90% moved up to hope here in Australia. Probably your surgeons are somehow better than our surgeon. This is coming out. Yes, because they are able to move from the initial shock to the hope. Yes, so they are able to listen. Perhaps in Italy they are too much formal. Here they are less formal. This is not the same with the stomatherapy nurse, and we will see why. How long do I have of time still? 15 minutes. 15 minutes, okay.
By this clock, so
Okay, I didn't watch it. Okay, here I'm happy that I have time also for questions by your side. Here I felt like with the nurse, like this is, oh, they were very happy with the nurse. The Italian nurse like guardian angels, they're lovely, they're joyful, and that's it. Here, Australian emotion, after meeting the nurse, we see that there are 62% they are comfort, reassured, and 38% were confused and shocked and worried and left alone. They were really left alone, reading the narrative. And we will understand why these results are so different. We will really see it. So what is living today with the stoma? Well, here is, I would say that the acceptance of the stoma is half and half. It's the same in Italy and is the same in Australia. It was a not pleasant experience. It was a shock, awful. I was in intensive care, well done and comfortable. The surgeon had told me that he wanted me to be in hospital for 4 days. The register working under the surgeon kept trying to send me home after 1 day. This is terrible what's happening to the healthcare services all around the world. They are just constraining and shrinking the proper time of caring at the hospital. And when you are discharged in Italy, you have to do only 20 kilometers to go back. When you are discharged in Australia, we were told that you had to drive 800 kilometers to go back to the hospital, 200 miles. So the distances are so huge. Again, also here, this is Australian stoma. And me, it's also half and half, not difficult, 21%, resignation, normal life. So let's see what's coming out from, I say in words that my stoma is like. I think it's something, words belongs to Minimal English, stoma no, is mine. Is like, belongs to Minimal English, and I would say to NSM. In Italy, you see the black words, Australia, the red words. So we have clustered these words into 4 groups. Acceptance, that means coping. Difficulty, not coping. Resignation, it's like a negotiation affair, and technical, like neutral words. So some Italian are very technical. They say efficient solution, temporary tool, mounting plate, little bag, little hole, little mouth. And they say also little tomato and raspberry, like yes, something which belongs to nature. It's very difficult to, it was just an attempt, there was nothing of personal inside. Let's see the resignation, which are a little discomfort, ugly but necessary, wallet that needs to be empty, attached to my body, something tender, fragile. And let's hear the 2 extremes. Let's start from the difficulty, disgusting, big handicap. And here the Australian starts to show their difference. Richard Nixon, they said. And they gave a forename. Nobody of the Italian patient gave a forename. Fred, Stanley, Harry, Bobby. They gave a forename, and they were all blind. They didn't know of each other, yes? So this was really something strange when we went to. And you see how narrative is so important, because here you see it's an extraneous body, it's a big handicap. Here you see that there is no coping. Here you have to help the patient. Here that you see that if the patient says part of me, new part of my body, the coping has been done or is ongoing. So now we have the discovery why the nurses were judged so differently in Australia. I want by my side. We have an ad. Do you want the doctor? Standard questionnaire. Do you want the nurse? Do you want, who do you want? I want by my side. Yes, just look at this is incredible. Italy. Mamma. 62% of mamma. Mamma, moglie, wife, okay? Mamma, mia moglie, mia figlia, women, basically. guardian angels, okay. Professional, 13%. Family and professional, so say 62 plus 20, it's like 82% of the family. 82%. Nobody, 5%. Using the same illness script. And Australian, well, there are only 62, and they are going on. They will go on. Anyhow, we can see that family 7%. Nobody independent. I want to go to autonomous, my life. And I was reading the story. Paula read the story. Blinded fashion. We didn't know, and we both were astonished because what's happening here? Why? These are cultural differences. But this is why they were so much demanding to the nurse, because they are lonely, they want their autonomy, which is right, but they want somehow also to be helped by somebody, and this somebody is the healthcare professional. So I'm almost at the end of the presentation. I really would like to say that I'm not going into the clinical evaluation of what we get out and how we can change the different system, because we said that for Italy, since the family is so much involved, the multidisciplinary team at the hospital should take care of the whole family, not only of the patient. And on the other hand, we said that in Australia, probably there should be a reinforced by the multidisciplinary team to take care of the loneliness of the patient. And this could be done through many technologies also, not always in present, but of course while trying to discharge later the patient, but then afterwards to provide that, to be always stay in touch with the patient. It's not that you can provide the all this book manual to read alone. Doesn't work like this. So what we got from this study, was the first study of narrative medicine comparing in this indication across country. The illness plot was thought partially in minimal English and minimal Italian, so to limit the bias of local cultural words, trying not to manipulate patients. Results were able, using the semi-universal plot, to show the peculiarities and similarities across Italy and Australia. And now what we got after the Congress, we have presented this to Brisbane, that also US wants to use the same plot to see if there are differences. And that's it. So I'm almost at the end. I think that minimal English and minimal language is very important, because it allows to minimize the influence of not universal words. We strongly believe that when there is a condition of fragility, something universal is happening, because we are natural somehow, and something universal is happening, and it's a very good tool to enter into the realm of the patient. Is, however, respecting the local cultural script, and this is of the specific culture, and is not limiting the ability to express everyone. I just want to leave you with this last slide. This is the Mendeleev table of elements, and we have so many elements, but probably you know that the hydrogen is present in the universe in 99%, helium in something like 0.2%, and most of the elements are present up to iron 26, especially in the stars, and some of the elements are just barely present. Some elements were artificial, they were invented during the Cold War, like berkelium, californium. They were just invented. And I just want to say that for me, it's like an analogy with words. So minimal English means also the fact that we don't connect all the atoms that we have here. Some are natural, some are artificial. So my message is that I totally agree with the title that Cliff gave to the book, using less words to communicate better, because this is like the universe is done somehow. And I just want to leave with you with this message.